This is the Relativity Series from LA Theater Works and the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, bridging science and the arts in the modern world.
Now, LA Theater Works continues with Dr. Cerberus by Roberto Aguirre-Sacasa.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Franklin. Happy birthday to you.
4 years have gone by. I'm 17 years old now. Still husky. Rodney's 21 and has moved out. My mom and dad are 4 years older.
Blow out the candles and make a wish. And for God's sakes, don't set anything on fire. Kidding. It's joking. I'm joking.
Yay!
Did you make a wish? What did you wish for?
It's supposed to be a goddamn secret, Mom. If he tells you, it won't come true.
Nuclear disarmament.
Good boy. Soon. It's coming.
And lots of gay porn.
All right, presents. Who wants to go first? Fine, I will. Stand aside. Ladies first. From your mother, who knows you best.
A gift certificate for Walden Books.
A $50 gift certificate. Thank you very much. Now you can buy even more of those Choose Your Own Path books you love so much.
I haven't read a Choose Your Own Adventure book in years, Mother. Yeah, but thank you. This is great.
I love you, Franklin. You make us very, very proud.
Mom.
Isn't this the loveliest time? I'm only sorry that cute little girlfriend of yours couldn't make it tonight.
Who? Oh, yeah, Mary. We broke up. Bet you're sorry you missed that chapter.
Oh, no, what happened?
He wouldn't give her the hot beef injection.
Her loss, the little slut. Who's next? Rodney?
I'm not giving Franklin his gift tonight.
Rodney!
I'm saving it, okay? For when it could actually help him.
You would think, now that he's in college, now that he's a BMOC, now that he's working, you would think a T-shirt from the bookstore, a binder that says George Mason University, anything.
I'll go next. I have a memory. You are 11 years old, Franklin. It is your birthday. And your mother and I have no earthly idea what to give you. A football? No sports, so no sporting equipment. Action figures? You had such a collection, and anyway, I couldn't bring myself to buy you any more dolls. Comic books? It's what you spent your allowance on. And which ones would I get you? Books? Same thing. Records? You hadn't discovered them yet. And so we gave you money. Meaningless. But this year...
Dad?
It's an Olympia typewriter. Yeah, I saw it at an estate sale. At the exact moment another gentleman did, we both lunged for it, grabbed its handle simultaneously, and he said, I'm a collector. I collect these things. And I said, I'm getting this for my son. It's his birthday. And how could he argue with that?
Doubtless you were hoping for an electric one or a word processor.
You'll get one for college, same as your brother.
Though he promptly destroyed his.
It was an accident, part of an initiation.
This is to tide you over.
No, this is... H.P. Lovecraft created his Cthulhu mythos on a rebuilt 1906 Remington manual. The only typewriter he would own his entire life. Rod Serling typed his first season of scripts for The Twilight Zone on a Smith Corona typewriter until he started dictating them because he was such a slow typist. Stephen King wrote his first 4 novels on an Underwood that was missing the letter N, which he would then fill in by hand before submitting the manuscripts to his editor.
You like it then?
Dad, Mom, I love it. D-E-A-R-D-R period C-E-R-B-E-R-U-S. How many letters has it been over the years? I lose count. Nevertheless, I wanted to congratulate you on Nightmare Theater's renewal for another season. I understand from the various fanzines I have been known to purchase on occasion that many of your colleagues in other cities, Svengoolie in Chicago, Count Gory, Devolved in Pittsburgh, Baron Butcher in Southern California. I understand that many of your ilk have closed down shop, i.e. been canceled in recent months for reasons that elude me. Please let me know if there's anything I can do in terms of being an advocate for Nightmare Theater. Well, I already am, of course, at the grassroots level. In the meantime, enclosed, please find a copy of my newest short story, which is quite the corker, and which will be published, my third one, in the spring-summer issue of Rue Morgue magazine. My best, always, Franklin Robertson.
Lydia Robertson, Madison National Bank. How did you get this number?
Mrs. Robertson, I'm sorry to be calling you at work. I'm Evan Walsh, Franklin's English teacher.
Oh, God, what has he done now?
Killer to the left, killer to the right. Stand up, sit down, fright. This Saturday night at 11:30 on Nightmare Theater, it's Return to Horror High!
A month ago, I gave my English class, Franklin included, a creative writing assignment. Write a short story. Very few parameters. It had to be a certain length, at least 5 pages, but otherwise, no restrictions in terms of content or form.
Mr. Walsh, is that a pitcher of water on your desk? Would you mind pouring me a glass?
Certainly, Mrs. Robertson.
Christ, Lydia.
Anti-anxiety medication, Mr. Walsh. As you can imagine, I have a lot of anxiety in my life from my family and my full-time job. Oh, yes, indeedy. I'm like those Anjali ladies in the commercials. I bring home the bacon and fry it up in the pan.
Mom.
You were saying, Mr. Walsh?
After I collected the stories and then started reading them, I discovered a trend.
Oh?
Many of the stories were, let's call them similarly themed.
I can explain. Mr. Walsh, I would have explained.
How many?
7 of them, including Franklin's. All of them quite well written, minimal passive voice, no unnecessary adverbs. All of them what I would term horror stories. All of them typed on a typewriter that seems to be missing the letter N. The N's were filled in by hand, hundreds of them, and I recognized the handwriting as Franklin's.
What in God's name were you thinking?
That this would be a good opportunity to get feedback on my writing. I thought if Mr. Walsh read a bunch of my stories, even if they weren't under my name, he might get more of a sense, even subliminally, of my, canon of work. Plus, no one else wanted to write stories.
I don't suppose it occurred to you that you might have asked Mr. Walsh to read your stories and offer you feedback without resorting to subterfuge. He seems like a genuine, interested individual. I'm sure he would have consented.
Absolutely. I've said as much to Franklin.
We're so ashamed, Mr. Walsh.
No, that's not my intention, Mrs. Robertson. As I said, the stories, the abominable Livy, the death clock, your corpse I shall carve, voodoo you trust, Pledge to Satan, Demon from the Deep, and the one that Franklin submitted under his own name, Oh Mom, Oh Dad, you've sent me away to summer camp and I'm so sad. They were all quite good. Strong protagonists, clear beginnings, middles, and ends, nice twists and turns. No, your son has a genuine talent. Of course, I wish he'd branch out into a more realistic direction. I recommended he read Raymond Carver, Joan Didion.
I've tried. It's just people talking about their horrible failed marriages. I keep thinking, when did the zombies get here? Start eating these morose, these depressing bourgeois.
How much trouble is Franklin in, and how much penance will he have to do to get out of it?
Well, for giving his friends stories to submit, in my view, the fault lies more with the other boys. What I'm more concerned about, the real reason I called you in, was Franklin's story. Oh, Mom, oh, Dad, you sent me away to summer camp and I'm so sad.
Well, alluding, obviously, to the classic title, Oh, Dad, Poor Dad, Mama's Hung You in the Closet and I'm Feeling So Sad. It's a little forced, I admit.
Have you read this particular story?
No, they never read my stuff.
He won't let us read his stories.
All you have to do is ask.
All you have to do is offer.
What about this particular story, Mr. Walsh?
It's about an overweight boy who's sent to a sleepaway camp and develops what I would call a sexual fixation on one of the male counselors.
A platonic, chaste fixation. He wants to be the counselor's friend, that's all.
The boy is rebuffed, to the delight of the other counselors, who soon find themselves stalked and murdered in increasingly graphic but ingenious ways by a masked killer who is suspiciously overweight. In addition to homosexuality and murder, the story contains themes of cannibalism, incest, child molestation, and racism.
All that in 5 pages.
This particular story was 7 pages.
It's not racist. It's racial. Totally different thing.
As teachers, we're trained to look for warning signs, indicators that all is not well. And this story indicates to me that perhaps there's something troubling or disturbing Franklin, possibly originating in his home environment.
Mr. Walsh, you said when you assigned this particular assignment that there were no restrictions in terms of content, correct?
I did.
Then what exactly is the problem?
At the end of the story, Mr. Robertson, the overweight boy goes home, back to his mother and father. He murders them. Then spends the next 2 weeks eating little bits and pieces of them. Is the problem.
It's a story. If you must know, something similar happens in Titus Andronicus. And, Cannibal Holocaust.
Look, folks, I think your son is an ingenious writer with a lot to say, and I want him to flourish next year when he goes to NYU. But if there's some underlying emotional disturbance...
Just 1 minute. NYU?
Oh, Mr. Walsh.
Our son is not going to NYU.
He's not? Franklin, you're not?
Based on his grades, and based on where our family is financially this year, we decided, the 3 of us, that it would be in everyone's best interests if Franklin stayed at home and went to George Mason University, which is a wonderful school.
Sure, but in terms of what Franklin wants to study, creative writing,
You
NYU...
heard my wife. Our son is not going to NYU.
But he applied. He's been accepted.
He has.
I helped him with his application. Wrote him a letter of recommendation. Look, if it's a matter of money, there are loans and scholarships to be had.
Franklin, tell Mr. Walsh where you're going to school. Tell him you're going where your brother goes, where I went. Tell him. Franklin.
I'm going to George Mason. Mr. Walsh, I'm sorry I wasted your time with all that NYU nonsense.
Good. Now, apologize for that story.
Dad.
Apologize, Franklin, so we can be over and done with this mess.
I'm sorry I gave you that story, Mr. Walsh.
No. You're sorry you wrote it. Franklin.
I'm sorry I wrote it.
Are we through here, Mr. Walsh?
This isn't... I called you in to help.
And you have. You absolutely have helped us.
A little less creative writing, a little more practical thinking. Come on, let's go. We've wasted enough of Mr. Walsh's valuable time.
Franklin.
It's not your fault. I should have warned you. They're sharks.
Mr. Walsh, a pleasure. I wish all our son's teachers were as conscientious as you. Come on, Franklin. You want us dead? Is that your twisted little, your fantasy? You want to kill us?
No, Mom.
You're not so special, you know. Every teenager is sensitive, misunderstood. Every teenager wants to kill his parents. The cannibalism, it's an added layer. But the murder, de rigueur. Every teenager wants to run away to New York and be a star. You think I didn't want that? You think I don't still?
It's just a story, Mother.
Yes, you keep saying that, but then I wake up in the middle of some night and you're looming over me with a steak knife and a bottle of barbecue sauce. Well, you just go ahead and try it, my little carnivore. You try it. You see what happens. I bite back.
Franklin, why don't you help me with the leaves in the yard?
Yes, sir.
I bet you're thinking I am just about the worst father. That I don't understand you. That all I do is knock you down.
No, sir.
No one cares more about you than I do. You think you don't have friends? Well, you do. Me, I'm your friend. I'm your best friend. Stop raking for a second. And no one wants your happiness, your success more than I do. Not even you.
Great. We're on the same page. Awesome.
Now, your grandparents were adamant about church. And there was no, oh, do we have to? No, it was Mass every Sunday at 9:30. And there was one gospel I remember hearing when I was 9 or 10.
Honestly, Dad, you don't have to...
The parable of the talents. So, a master is going away on a business trip, and he gives his 3 servants 3 different amounts of money. Right? He gives the first servant 5 talents, the second servant 2 talents, the third servant 1 talent. Talent used to mean money. Got it. Okay. So, master goes away, and he comes back a week later, and when he gets back, he calls his servants to him. And the first servant has taken his 5 talents and turned them into 5 more. He invested the money, let's say. Well, the master's overjoyed. He rewards the servant, gives him a promotion. Now then he calls the second servant, who's taken his 2 talents and turned them into 4. Again, the master's thrilled. He gives servant number 2 more responsibility. Now then, he calls his third servant forward, and this guy took the 1 talent his master had given him, and he buried it for safekeeping. He didn't do anything with it. So when he turned it back over to his master, what do you think happened?
The master was PO'd?
He was. He banished the third servant, and there was much gnashing of teeth and hair pulling. And afterwards, after Mass, I asked your grandpa what it meant. And he said, know thy talents. And even if you only have 1, don't waste it.
That's what I'm trying to do, Dad. I'm trying not to waste my talent.
I know, but Franklin, you have a great passion for writing, and I love that about you, son. That's why I gave you your typewriter. But I'm not sure you have the talent for it.
You don't know anything about my writing.
No one else will tell you that. No one else cares enough. I mean, definitely not that Mr. Walsh.
He's a great teacher.
Look at Rodney. If he'd had his druthers, he'd be in training to play for the Washington Redskins. But come on, not in a million. And he didn't have to be told. He knew. He knew and reassessed, discovered his talent for the law.
Yeah, his deeply buried talent. So deeply buried, in fact, it's still missing. And you do realize, Dad, this is a variation on every conversation we've ever had.
I'm talking to you honestly, like a man. And it's your decision. It's your life. You're the one who has to live it. But it's also what I believe about you in my heart. Okay? Okay, Franklin?
I appreciate your opinion, Dad, and I'm sorry about messing up with Mr. Walsh.
Rodney plays pickup games with his buddies on the weekends. I'm not saying you should give
I know
up
exactly
your
what you're saying, Dad. Again, thank you for your opinion.
All right. You're excused. Go on, I'll finish raking.
You pathetic, bitter... Just because no one believed in you, just because you never had any dreams.
Oh, I did. I was fascinated with mythology the most. Loved it. Loved reading about the Greek gods, the Roman gods. You know, I used to think, if I could spend the rest of my life studying the beliefs of people who came before us, I would be happy. Content.
Why didn't you?
Well, your mother got pregnant with your brother, and we got married, and that decided everything.
Over the next week, I pulled together and mailed my materials to George Mason. The day I sent the envelope off, I celebrated in the basement with a tub of Baskin-Robbins Oreo ice cream and an old friend.
Before tonight's feature, ladies and gentlemen, I have an extra special announcement. My producers, in their infinite wisdom, and hoping to appeal to a younger, more MTV-like demographic, whatever the hell that is, have suggested I might take a youthful sidekick to help with the care and feeding of nightmare theater.
Oh my God.
A Jekyll to my Hyde, as it were.
That's me.
A Renfield to my Dracula. An Igor to my Frankenstein.
That's me. I'm Igor. I'm Renfield.
So, if you're between the ages of 15 and 20 and you have some knowledge about horror movies, write me a short. And I do mean short, people, 250 words maximum essay explaining why you should be my faithful factotum.
Because everything, my whole life has been leading to this one moment.
And send it to me along with your character's name and the picture. In costume, preferably. Care of Channel 20, 5202 River Road, Bethesda, Maryland, 20816.
But I've been sending you letters all my goddamn life.
Sorry, didn't get them.
What?
Timing is everything. Now, I give you House on Haunted Hill.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. Must write essay, must win contest. Where's... Mom! Come on. Mother!
Oh, so, the little prince is speaking to me now. All is forgiven.
Mother, have you seen my typewriter? I always keep it right here next to the couch.
I gave it to Goodwill.
What?
How many times did I ask you, beg you, not to leave your things lying around the house? This isn't not your personal kingdom, Prince Franklin. Sorry.
You gave away my typewriter?
If it was your typewriter, what was it doing in my basement on my floor?
Mother, are you insane? I write down here because you said that me typing in my bedroom kept you up at night.
Don't you yell at me. Don't you ever yell at me.
I love that typewriter. That typewriter was the best gift you and Dad ever gave me.
Oh, what about the gift of life? Huh? What about food? What about shelter? Honestly, you and your brother you're so ungrateful sometimes.
What Goodwill?
It's too late. It's long gone.
Which Goodwill, Mom?
I don't know. I called a main number. A truck came and took it away.
Mother. Why?
I told you.
Well, no. I mean, why are you such a bitch?
Franklin.
Why do you hate me so much?
I don't.
Then why would you do that? Why would anyone do anything so...
He died, Franklin.
What? Who did?
Jack. Your Uncle Jack. Yesterday. In some apartment in Tucson. Funeral director called.
Jesus. Why? What's in Tucson?
The desert. The mountains. I don't know. Why? He was cremated. No service. All arrangements made beforehand. Didn't want anyone notified until afterwards. Till afterwards.
He didn't want to say bye?
To you? I'm sure he wanted to, but I sent him away, Franklin.
No, Mom, he didn't.
He came to me about you. While he was staying with us, he came to the bank. Ambushed me is what it felt like, and he said to me that he believed that you were like him. A little queer boy, that's how he put it. Like uncle, like nephew, he said. There are signs, he said. And I clenched my fists, and I sat at my desk, and I didn't utter a word. He wanted to make sure that your father and I were being supportive of you, of your pursuits, that we were showing you an appropriate amount of love, he said, because we hadn't been shown any love by our parents, which was news to me, I thought, but I kept my mouth shut and I let him continue. And he said, because he had felt unloved and because he was a little queer boy himself, as he grew older, he looked for that missing love elsewhere in the most... Oh, you can't imagine the places. Or maybe you can. Anywhere you can think of to debase yourself. And he'd let the men in those places do the most disgusting things to him because he didn't know what real love was. He never felt it, received it. And this thing with strangers, this physical connection, maybe that was love. And that's how he got sick, of course. Then he didn't want that same fate for you. He didn't want you to be driven to that behavior. He would do his best, he said, while he was staying with us. But it was our job, your father's and mine, to make sure you were loved. I told him he was to leave the house immediately. He wasn't to say goodbye to you or Rodney, and if he tried to contact you, to meddle with you, I would call the police on him. I told him to do the decent thing for once in his life and to get out of our home and go somewhere far, far away to die. He was sick. And I sent him away. Not your father. Me. I did.
Mom.
Don't touch me. Don't. I warned you. You didn't believe me. But I warned you.
I pulled together a costume, took a Polaroid of myself, wrote my essay for Nightmare Theater, longhand. Upstairs, my dad came home. An argument erupted in the kitchen. I began to write, transcribe what I was hearing.
Your brother, whom you haven't spoken to in years, dies, and you decide that you're wasting your life, that you need to quit your job. That's just great. It's really tremendous, Liz.
I wouldn't be quitting. I'd be cutting back.
Why? What in God's name would you do with more free time?
Take classes.
Christ almighty, in what?
Art. Photography. What does it matter?
That fight continued, moving with my parents through the house like a low-grade storm up to their bedroom out of earshot. But a memory had been triggered. I slipped into remembering and writing about something that had happened years before.
As long as he's the youngest in his class, he will always be trailing behind.
He won't. He will not.
Be reasonable. If we keep Franklin back and let him repeat this year, things would even out. He'd be with children his own age, not always running to catch up.
My son is not repeating the 3rd grade because some minimum wage earning hack teacher.
He can't read, Lawrence. You've seen him struggle. We buy him books. He draws in them.
I will tutor him. I will get him to read. I will sit with him and read with him however long it takes. But no one is going to tell my son he has to stay back.
I kept writing into the night, through my memory, into something imagined. What if? In my mind's eye, I saw younger versions of my mom and dad sitting in an airport. I invented the words they were saying.
Stay. Lydia, please. I'm begging you, do not go.
For the summer, Larry, to work at the restaurant.
If you go to Philadelphia, you'll tell your parents. Or do God knows what, and you won't ever come back.
I need to sort this, Larry. I can't think with you hovering over me all the time.
This baby means we should get married, doesn't it? We dive in. We figure things out on the other side.
You mean for the rest of our lives? Are you ready for that?
I am. Do not get on that plane.
You're 21. You're not ready for anything.
I'll show you.
I already bought a ticket.
I will love you and make you happy every day we are together.
By the end of the night, I have 24 scrawled out pages of disjointed vignettes and ideas that didn't have anything to do with werewolves or vampires or zombies or ghouls. I put the pages in a folder, wrote the word novel, ? On the folder's edge, hid it where no one would find it. Life, such as it was, continued.
Did you cry like a little baby?
About Uncle Jack or the typewriter?
Either, both.
I never tried to find him, Rodney.
You were 13. You had your own shit to deal with. Me torturing you, Mom being a bitch. God, what a bitch. She gonna buy another one? Another Olympia?
Kind of not the point. I was meant to keep that one for the rest of my life.
Hey, maybe you can use this as leverage to get a computer.
Possibly. Dad took me to Circuit City yesterday, and we looked at some Toshibas.
Toshiba is dead. Go Dell, I'm telling you.
Yeah, but all the computers at George Mason are Toshiba, and the libraries, the labs.
Yeah, I know. I go there. What does that have to do with anything?
I'm going to George Mason too, Rodney, as of a month ago. Catch up.
You applied to NYU and got in.
It's easier, cheaper. I'll live at home, commute.
What the hell are you talking about?
I changed my mind. It's no big deal.
Bullshit. This is Mom and Dad, isn't it?
No, it's me. I decided.
Mom! Dad!
Rodney, can you please, not...
You're going to fucking NYU. This reeks. Mom! Dad!
Rodney, yes.
Family meeting. Agenda item number 1. Franklin going to NYU.
Don't get involved in this, Rodney. It doesn't concern you.
No, see, I have the conch, Dad, and I say he's my brother... And he's going to NYU.
To live in a dorm?
Of course. Why the hell not?
Rodney, have you met your brother? Rodney Franklin Rodney. Your brother is not made for dorm living.
He's not a goddamn orchid, Mom.
No, he's an extremely overweight, sensitive, introspective boy who has no friends but the ones in his head.
Well, and Dad's my best friend.
I can't imagine what that means. but he has never had a girlfriend besides that wretched Mary person. Do you think he's ready to live in a dorm in New York City?
Of course he's not ready. No one's ready. I wasn't ready.
Do you know what would happen to a boy like Franklin in New York City? He would be preyed upon, Rodney, by, well, deviants, if you must know.
What is he going to be, a virgin all his life?
Oh, my God.
Better that than getting an incurable venereal disease.
We can't afford NYU. The tuition, the dorms, paying for you to live on campus at George Mason broke the bank, buddy.
Franklin can take out loans. Get up. He has a job. He already has a job lined up.
You do?
Well, entry level. This was from before we decided I was going to George Mason again.
Doing what?
Editorial assistant.
Coffee fetcher.
At a movie magazine.
Entertainment Weekly?
Fangoria.
I'm sorry, but that does not sound like a mainstream publication.
They cover horror movies, sci-fi movies, fantasy movies.
More of the same. Don't look now, but you're ghettoizing yourself, dear.
Well, when you're forced to live in the basement as a child.
How much would this position pay you, smartass?
$25 a week to cover transportation.
A dorm at NYU costs $6,000 a semester.
It would be a place to start, a foot in the door.
And then what? What does he do when he graduates with a degree in, creative writing? How does he live? Support himself? By hustling for work?
He's gotten published.
Yes, and do you know how much he gets paid for those repugnant stories?
Not a clue.
$15.
And free contributors' copies.
Which is fine for a hobby, but my God, anything beyond that.
That's always been your problem, Rodney. You've never looked further than You've never had a plan. You've never had foresight.
You bastard.
Rodney.
You like stories, Franklin? I'll tell you a story, a true story. 2 years ago, you don't know this, I had a chance to intern with the Redskins the summer after my first year at George Mason.
Ancient history drudged up yet again. You shouldn't drink so much, Rodney. It makes you morose.
You should drink more, Mom. It makes you a much nicer person.
Hey!
Anyway, Franklin, the internship was in their licensing department or some bullshit.
Unpaid!
Working for a team, an organization that I love. That is in my veins. Cut me and I bleed burgundy and gold.
Oh, here it comes. How I ruined your life. You two need to man up.
I had the internship in my hands, but I also had a job offer at a law firm as a paralegal. And I stupidly asked Dad for advice. Which one should I take? Never thinking in a million years he would say to take the law firm job.
A job that paid you no money versus a job that paid you good money. Not much to debate there.
I turned down the Redskins to spend the summer in a fucking file room filing bullshit documents.
You're still working at that law firm, aren't you? Making good money, saving up for law school?
It's where you met that nice Jennifer we like so much too, isn't it?
I did it, Franklin. Oh, why did I do it? To keep them happy? To not disappoint them? As if such a thing were possible. As if it were possible to not disappoint them on some misguided... And I despise it. I despise what I'm doing.
Then quit! You asked for my advice, I gave it to you. I did the same for Franklin. Whether or not you took it was up to you.
You're not objecting for your brother's sake, but because you blame your father for... Let me get this straight. The fact that you're not a paper pusher for a second-rate football team...
There are a million things I could be doing for the Redskins, Mom. You don't get it. You'll never get it.
Get what? Rodney, get what?
Franklin... I'm only going to say this once, so please. They don't want you to go to NYU because they don't want you to be happy, ever.
Oh.
I don't know why that is. It just is. They don't want you to be gay, which you can't be here in this house, but you could in New York.
Rodney.
They don't want you to go someplace where people might appreciate all that creative bullshit you do. They want you dependent on them for as long as they can keep you trapped here.
Trapped? Do you see bars on the windows?
I think they're scared to be alone. The two of them. It's true, everything Mom says. You'll probably hate living in the dorms. You'll probably gain more weight eating in the cafeteria. You will probably never have sex, but God, it's a chance. Take it.
Rodney, I want to stay here.
You don't trust me.
No, listen, I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna go to George Mason, but it doesn't matter because I'm gonna be the new co-host on Nightmare Theater.
What the hell are you talking about?
I applied to Dr. Cerberus's to be his co-host, sidekick, factotum, whatever. He's announcing his pick this week on the air.
Do you know how many freaks probably applied for that job?
I've been watching Nightmare Theater since I was 9. I'm going to get this.
Franklin, honey, your brother's right. There might be hundreds of boys like you.
No, not like me.
Son, do you honestly think they're going to put someone who looks like you on TV?
Don't you fucking say that to him!
I'd be wearing a costume.
We don't want you to be brokenhearted. If it doesn't happen, that's all.
Dr. Cerberus will know. He'll see my picture, he'll read my letter, and he'll know.
2 weeks ago, I began my quest to find the suitable sidekick among the degenerate youth of our nation's capital. Hundreds of letters poured in. Well, if not hundreds, dozens. But there was one candidate who stood head and shoulders above the others, who has been watching horror movies since he was in his mother's womb, I suspect. Intelligent, thoughtful, witty, and most importantly, he'll work for free. And he has a great name. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you my new apprentice, Creepy Eddie.
That's not me.
Say hello, Creepy Eddie.
Hello, Creepy Eddie.
Why don't you tell them about tonight's movie, Creepy?
Why, sure, Dr. Cerberus. It would be my pleasure. Written and directed by Herc Harvey, this cult classic from 1961 has been hailed an unsung masterpiece of psychological terror. From Centron Studios, we give you
Carnival of Souls!
1962. Carnival of Souls was released in 1962, not 1961. Everyone knows that.
Son.
Honey.
Fuck Creepy Eddie.
My name, the name I came up with for my character was Franklinstein. Dr. Cerberus and Franklinstein. That's way better than Dr. Cerberus and Creepy Eddie.
Oh, absolutely.
Without question, son.
Fuck Dr. Cerberus. You know what this means, Franklin? This means go. This means don't look back.
He's not going anywhere. He's staying here forever and ever.
Just leave. You'll be fine.
Of course he will be. He'll stay with us, get a part-time job at a video store, or maybe selling tickets at the Key Theater. Wouldn't that be fun? Go to George Mason, choose a sensible major, graduate.
Meet a kind, respectful young woman who doesn't make too many demands on him.
Find a job, move into one of those nice new developments in Gaithersburg or Alexandria.
Have a child, maybe two.
Discover eventually that the development was built on the site of an ancient Micmac Indian burial ground, like in Poltergeist or Pet Cemetery. Realize that my life has become a horror movie. The most awful, boring, dead horror movie of all time. Oh my God!
That's why I'm saying...
Run! Dear Dr. Cerberus, you will perhaps be interested to hear about the turns my life has taken since you made the worst choice of your career. I went to NYU. I got student loans. My brother Rodney helped. I begged Fangoria, and they gave me my job back. I vowed to never take the subway, to walk everywhere, and to only eat rice cakes and ramen noodles, partly to save money, mostly to lose weight, which I did a lot. no longer husky. I joined the GLB HMF Club, the Gay, Lesbian, Bisexual Horror Movie Fan Club. I wrote like a fiend all the time, morning, noon, and night. Fangoria let me review books and movies for them, 2 cents a word. They were long reviews. I volunteered to help inner city kids with their reading and writing skills. I started dating one of the other volunteers, this cool indie guy named Jonah. We fell in love, graduated, found a place together in Queens. I finished a draft of a novel, Child of Fire, autobiographical. But I hope Universal dedicated it to my Uncle Jack. It got me an agent who sold it to Doubleday. Good reviews, poor sales. Promised to my editor that the next book would be a commercial novel with movie potential. With lots of other things happened as well. The Berlin Wall collapsed. I turned 24. But since I'm writing to you care of Channel 20, and you've been off the air for 7 years, I doubt you'll even get this letter. And P.S., Carnival of Souls was released in 1962, not 1961. Tell Creepy Eddie. Sincerely, successfully yours, Franklin Theodore Robertson.
When I retired from Channel 20, I said, the name's mine. I made it up, I own it, lock, stock, and barrel. My sets, too. I built them. I'm taking them with me, I said. Set them up here in my garage.
Thank you so much for letting me see them, Mr. Bennick. I cannot tell you how thrilling this is.
Yeah, it's okay. Lots of types like you have reached out over the years wanting me to resurrect Dr. Cerberus, autograph some pictures and the like. So embarrassing.
We're geek fans. We don't feel embarrassment and humiliation like normal people.
Oh, for me. It's embarrassing for me.
Really? Because I was going to ask to interview you for this book I'm thinking of possibly writing.
Oh?
A novel about a horror host who fights real monsters, because he's sort of an expert because of all the horror movies he's introduced. The main character, the host, would be like a modern-day Abraham Van Helsing, is what I'm thinking. And, you know, goes without saying, but I dedicate it to you, to Dr. Cerberus.
Don't! Please.
Really, it would be an honor.
You think that I grew up wanting to be a ghoul? You think anyone does? Okay, well, not me. I started out, I was the weatherman at Channel 20 for years and years.
Oh my God, totally, you were!
I was also Bozo the Clown, but that's another story.
Oh my God, Bozo too!
One day the station manager asked me if I wouldn't mind introducing these crap horror movies. I said, as a joke, can I wear a disguise? He said, matter of fact, that's how it's usually done. Wasn't my dream gig, let me tell you. Not like they paid me anything extra either.
Still, you have to know, you meant a lot to a lot of people, sir. And for me, personally, you made it easier.
Well, if I did, I'm glad.
You did. You saved my life.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am your humble host, Dr. Herbert Cerberus. Doctor, because I have PhD
in fear! You call my people, we'll find some time, I'll tell you stories.
Oh, Mr. Bennick, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You grew up in the area?
Maryland, Silver Spring.
You visiting your folks while you're down here?
My mom, my dad passed away 2 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
I appreciate that, sir.
I hope you rented a big truck, Franklin.
And it's okay. We talk pretty regularly via Ouija board.
There are 35 boxes of comics and books up there, I counted.
Oh, I'm not taking all the books, I promise. Jonah, I'd be ruthless. It doesn't bring tears to my eyes. It doesn't come back to New York, because really, how many different editions of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde does one man need?
It's curious to me, after all these years, you suddenly announce, I'm coming to get my books this weekend. Like you decided it in the middle of the night, but waited until it was morning to call me.
No. Since Dad's funeral, you've been talking about selling the house, and this is a preemptive strike, Mom. Plus, I was coming down to meet with Dr. Cerberus.
How did it go?
Good. Nice guy.
Weirdo?
I mean, no more than any of us.
You so wanted to be on that nightmare theater.
Yeah, I did. I was kind of a maniac about it, Mom.
What a mistake that would have been. Before I forget, your typewriter's upstairs, too.
My what?
The one your dad got you.
My Olympia?
It's in your room. Case and all. I found it in the attic.
Mom, you donated that typewriter to Goodwill when I was 17 years old.
I most certainly did not. Knowing how much it meant to you. Why would I have done so horrible a thing?
Mother, why didn't we talk? We could have been... Don't you think it would have been so much easier if we just talked to each other?
You want to talk? Let's talk. Let's have a real conversation. Your novel, all that coming of age, doesn't that embarrass you? To have written something so personal and then to have so many people read it?
First of all, not that many people read it.
Enough did, let me tell you. And incidentally, your father and I never had any such conversation in an airport. So where that detail came from, I have no idea.
I made it up.
And all that business between you and between Frederick and Joseph. Is that made up too?
Of course.
So you're not cheating on him then? You're not straying?
God, no, that was dramatic license.
You're treating him with respect. Yourself with respect.
I'm a writer. If I don't treat myself with respect, no one else will.
I strayed once. This is fun. I like talking. You remember Mr. Chow?
Our neighbor? Oh, my God. Are you kidding?
Oh, the gulf between the person you are and the person your children think you are. Mr. Chow's little girl had come by the week before the, let's call it the hairspray incident, wanting to sell me some chocolate bars, and I had rebuffed her. So I thought, after Mr. Chow saved our house from burning to cinders, I thought the least I could do is buy a chocolate bar from his China baby doll.
Her name was Hannah.
Was it? Curious name for a Chinese baby.
Anyway, Mom.
Anyway, I went over there, and it was just Mr. Chow at home. And let me see. He brewed some tea. I started babbling and then crying. Then he started to rub my shoulders to comfort me. And, well, you know the Chinese and their insidious hands. And Mr. Chow was a widower, don't forget.
My God, did you sleep with him?
A lady can't divulge all her secrets.
Mom.
Answer my question, Franklin, about your novel.
I'm not embarrassed by it, no. It's me. It's us. Our lives. I'm proud of it. Get going with your sorting.
Rodney and Jennifer called. They're on their way with the baby.
Ugh, God, the breeders.
Hurry, I'm making us pasta with cream sauce for dinner.
No, what? No, cream sauce.
You're too skinny now.
Once a fat kid, always a fat kid.
A dash of cream. That's all. For texture. I'll be back to help.
I'm remembering something, or I'm imagining it. I don't know which. But let's say I'm remembering this. Let's say it happened a week before the backyard fire. It's the greatest night of the year, Halloween. I'm 13 years old, the first time I didn't get dressed up to go trick-or-treating. I'm alone in my parents' house in the basement watching Nightmare Theater, and Dr. Cerberus has just introduced the latest movie.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. In honor of the Horror Day, tonight's feature is one of my all-time favorites, House of Frankenstein.
Universal 1944, one big monster rally. Frankenstein's monsters in it, Dracula's in it, the Wolfman, a hunchback, a mad scientist. And it's a mess. I mean, no internal story logic, but, the more the merrier. And I'm eating a bowl of Lucky Charms, and I'm just transfixed.
Hello, anyone home?
Boys, why do they leave the lights on? Why does everyone always leave the lights on?
And my parents, who'd been out at a party, this is back when they went out, came home.
Franklin?
Shh, maybe he's asleep.
On Halloween? Hey, Franklin, you down there?
I don't answer for 1 second. I don't want to, but I'm here, Dad.
What are you watching?
And then my mom and dad did something they rarely did, but every so often.
Slide over, Franklin.
Which one is this?
House of Frankenstein, I say.
That's not Bela Lugosi.
No, John Carradine played Dracula in this one.
Really?
And Boris Karloff, who originally played Frankenstein's monster, is now playing the mad scientist.
That's not Boris Karloff?
No, that's Glenn Strange as the monster. Boris Karloff is playing Dr. Neiman.
Your dad and I saw all these old movies at a drive-in, Franklin. The Glen Echo Drive-In. Larry, you remember?
Wow, that was rare. My mom calling him Larry.
Right next to the amusement park.
Oh, God. We were teenagers. Babes in the woods.
Franklin, when's the French Revolution?
Lawrence.
Well, it's just remarkable to me that he can retain all this esoteric film trivia. And
Let it be, Larry.
And by some miracle, my dad did. He let it be. 1789, by the way. We watched a little while longer, and then...
Hello? Anyone homo?
Down here. We're down in the basement.
And then Rodney came home, and for whatever reason, he didn't go straight to his room either.
Give me room, biscuit.
How was your evening?
Fine.
Care to elaborate?
I was at Sean's. We were gonna watch Saturday Night Live, but then Mr. and Mrs. Fitzsimmons came home.
We were just at a party with the Fitzsimmons.
Never again.
Was it just the boys tonight? Or were any young ladies involved?
Jesus, Mom, the last thing I need right now is a girlfriend.
Yes, Lydia. The last thing he needs right now is a girlfriend.
I'm looking at us. We're sitting together, watching House of Frankenstein, but my father is on an archaeological dig, brushing the dust off an ancient artifact somewhere in the Valley of the Kings. My brother is in RFK Stadium, in one of the boxes, on his feet cheering because John Riggins has just made a break for the end zone. And my mother is... I have no idea where... even now, still... And I'm in that movie, in the House of Frankenstein, with all the other monsters.
This is LA Theatre Works' production of Dr. Cerberus by Roberto Aguirre-Sacasa. Dr. Cerberus starred Simon Helberg as Franklin Robertson, with Pamela J. Gray, Stephen Culp, Jared Sleeper, and Jamison Jones. Original music by Stephen Cahill. Associate producers Christina Montano and Jennifer Brooks. Our director is Bart DeLorenzo. I'm Susan Loewenberg, producing director of LA Theater Works.
This play is part of LA Theater Works' Relativity Series of science-themed plays. Lead funding for the Relativity Series is provided by the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, bridging science and the arts in the modern world.